I painted addresses on houses that didn't exist yet. The job posting said they needed someone with steady hands and an eye for detail. I was 19 and desperate for summer money, so I didn't ask too many questions when they hired me on the spot. My supervisor's name was Dennis. He had sun-damaged skin and wore the same faded blue shirt every day. On my first morning, he handed me a paintbrush, a can of black enamel, and a clipboard with a list of addresses. "You'll be doing the house numbers," he said. "Standard height, centered on the front. Nice and clean." I looked around the subdivision. It was called Meadow Ridge, though there were no meadows and definitely no ridge. Just flat dirt lots arranged in neat curves, with fresh asphalt streets winding between them. Not a single foundation had been poured. "Where are the houses?" I asked. Dennis gave me a strange look. "You paint the posts. The addresses go on the posts." He walked me to the first lot. A wooden post stood at the edge of the property, about 6 feet tall, planted in concrete. The lot number was written 12.45. I painted the numbers carefully, the way my dad had taught me to letter signs for his hardware store. The black enamel went on smooth. When I finished, Dennis inspected it and nodded. "Good. 93 more to go." The work was easy. Methodical. I moved from post to post, checking addresses off my list. The subdivision was huge, maybe 200 lots total, and I was only responsible for the western section. Dennis said another crew was handling the east side, though I never saw them. By the third day, I'd fallen into a rhythm. I'd arrive at 7 when the air was still cool, and work until the heat became unbearable around 2. The subdivision was always empty. No construction crews, no surveyors, no one. That's when I started noticing the mail. I was painting 1391 Sycamore Lane when I saw the mailbox. It was a standard rural box on a metal post planted next to the address post I'd just finished. The little red flag was up around a mailbox. Inside was a single envelope addressed to Margaret Chen at 1391 Sycamore Lane. No Richan. Sa scout for Tambert Chanau Kunmaner Ian. I turned it over in my hands, then put it back and closed the mailbox. When I mentioned it to Dennis during my lunch break, he was eating a sandwich in his truck with the AC running. "Don't worry about the mailboxes," he said. "Different contractor. But there's mail in them." He looked at me for a long moment. "Just do the numbers." I found more mail over the next week. Not at every address, but maybe 1 in 5. Always a single envelope. Always to a different name. I stopped opening the mailboxes after the first few, but I cut something notabit. The thing that bothered me most was how new everything looked. The mailboxes didn't have a speck of rust. The posts I was painting were fresh lumber, still smelling of the mill. But the streets were already cracking in places, thin fissures running through the asphalt like something was pushing up from below. I was halfway through my list when I started hearing the sounds. It happened at 522 Hawthorne Drive. I was touching up the 0 when I heard a door slam. Not far away, maybe 2 lots over. M2 stood up and I told myself it was wind catching something in the distance, but there was no wind. The air was thick and still. The sounds got more frequent. A lawnmower starting up. Children laughing. A dog barking. Always from the empty lots around me, always just out of sight. I'd spin around and see nothing but bare earth and wooden posts with fresh black numbers. Dennis didn't come around and see nothing but bare earth and wooden posts with fresh black numbers. Dennis didn't look up around as much anymore. When I finally tracked him down at the subdivision entrance, he was "Taco. You're almost done with your section, maybe 3 more days." I'm not imagining it. Never said you were. He folded the blueprint carefully. "Just finish the job." I should have quit then. I knew something was wrong. But I needed the money, and some part of me needed to understand what was happening. That night, I looked up Meadow Ridge online. The development had been announced 6 years ago. There were architectural renderings of beautiful homes, testimonials from future residents, a whole marketing campaign. Then nothing. The developer's website was still up, still taking reservations, still showing a grand opening scheduled for 2 years ago. I found one forum post from someone asking what happened to Meadow Ridge. The only reply said, "They built it wrong." The next morning, I arrived to find someone waiting at 1608 Maple Street. She was an older woman, maybe 60, standing next to the address post. She wore a cardigan despite the heat and was holding a set of keys. "Excuse me," she said as I approached. "I think there's been a mistake. This is a house, but there's no driveway." "Ma'am, there's no house here. She frowned at me like I was being difficult. Of course there is. I've lived here for 3 years. She gestured at the empty space. The garden's coming in nicely this year, don't you think? My mouth went dry. I should get my supervisor. Would you? I really need to talk to someone about the driveway. She smiled pleasantly and sat down on the bare dirt, arranged herself as if settling into a porch chair. I ran all the way to Dennis' truck and banged on the window. It's so route out? Dennis closed his eyes. Trist. Okay, show me. We drove to Maple Street in his truck, but when we got there, the woman was gone. Just the empty lot and the post I painted 2 days ago. She was right here, I said. Dennis walked to the address post and ran his hand over the numbers. They're getting stronger? What's getting stronger? He turned to face me. The houses, they were built. Kid. 5 years ago, people moved their lives. Then someone realized the whole subdivision was built on land the developer never actually purchased. I stared at him. So they what, tore everything down? Couldn't. Legal mess. Liens and claims and ownership disputes. So they did something else. He looked around at the empty lots. They unmade it. Brought in specialists, people who know how to undo things properly. Pulled the houses backward through time until they never existed. That's insane. Yeah. He kicked at the dirt. Except it didn't quite work. The houses are gone, but Avery, Clive, Camp, Atide, Tram, Tammy, and every address we paint, every mailbox that goes up, every piece of infrastructure we put back, we're giving them something to anchor to. I thought about the sounds. The mail. The woman who couldn't see that her house was gone. Why are we doing this? I asked. Why are we helping them come back? Dennis met my eyes. Because if we don't, they'll come back anyway. Wrong. This way, we control how they return. We paint the numbers, set the addresses, and when the houses finally silly by again, they'll complete paying. I attempt to claim it. What happened to the people? He didn't answer. He just got back in his truck and drove away. I finished my section that week. I painted every remaining address, even though my hands shook and I could hear full conversations happening in the empty lots around me. Smell dinners cooking in kitchens that weren't there. See curtains moving in windows that didn't exist. On my last day, I returned to 1391 Sycamore Lane. Margaret Chen's mailbox was there, and the flag was up again. I opened it. Inside was an envelope addressed to me. My paya opened. The letter was handwritten, dated 3 years in the future. It was from me. Don't paint the last address, it said, 1701 Meadow Ridge Circle. That one's yours. They've been saving it for you. Once you paint it, you'll have given them everything they need to make you remember living there. And once you remember, you'll be there. You'll always have been there. I looked at my clipboard. One address left, 1701 Meadow Ridge Circle. I walked to the lot. The post was already there, waiting. My paint felt hell, but Dennis's words echoed in my head. If we don't do this, they'll come back anyway. Wrong. And I thought about the woman who couldn't see her house was gone. The sounds of lives still being lived in empty spaces. What would happen if the houses came back wrong, with people still tangled up in them? I dipped my brush in the paint. The numbers went on smooth and clean. 1701. The black enamel gleamed wet in the sun. As I painted the final stroke, I felt it. A shift, like something saying get frick. A garden on the left side that was coming in nicely this year. I've been here for 3 years now. I remember moving in, remember painting these walls, remember the mortgage paperwork. I remember everything. But sometimes, late at night, I also remember painting an address on a wooden post. I remember an empty lot and a letter I sent myself. I remember 2 versions of the same summer, and I can't tell which one is trying to warn me. The houses on Meadow Ridge are all occupied now. We have blot pride. Saying how. Except sometimes I see Dennis driving slowly through the neighborhood. He never stops. He just looks at each house, at each address painted on each door, and I see something in his face that might be relief or might be regret. I haven't checked my mailbox in a week. The red flag is up. I know there's a letter inside, but I'm afraid of what it might say, afraid of what I might learn I'll need to do next summer. The post for 1702 just appeared yesterday. Fresh lumber, waiting for numbers. And I still have that paint, cut.